Welcome to Big Blend Radio, where we celebrate variety and how it adds spice to quality of life. Hey everyone, it is time for Joey Stuckey to be back here on the Big Daily Blend on Big Blend Radio. He is here every fourth Sunday, and as you know, he's an award-winning musician. He's a composer, singer, songwriter, guitarist, all kinds of instruments actually, and he's got an amazing recording studio that we got to visit when we visited him, most importantly, in Macon, Georgia. In fact, he is the music ambassador of Macon, Georgia, which is really the home to Southern rock. And downtown Macon, where his studio is amazing. So anyway, keep up with Joey at joeystuckey.com. So welcome back, Joey. How are you?
I am well, my friend. It's good to be back with you as always.
Hey, it is always cool. And you know, it's so good. Nancy and I are back in Tucson, Arizona, home to the Tohono O'odham Nation. And, you know, this is a special place for us. And, you know, the Southwest is definitely a huge hub of Native American music, as is the whole country. But, you know, it just being, you know, we started our magazine in San Diego and expanded into the Southwest. And so really covering Native American music and Native American art and history, is part of our soul, you know.
Yeah.
I know we've got a few ancestral roots in the Paiute Nation as well. But today, that's what we're talking about is Native American music. It is Native American Heritage Month. And quite frankly, I think it should be every day. But I always say that about holidays too. But really, today we want to honor our ancestral people of our country, right? So I think it's appropriate around Thanksgiving that we really look at who the indigenous people are that let us in, right, Joey?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the music. For you as a musician and a producer, and you know how you record people, have you worked in recording any Native American musicians before?
Yeah, absolutely have, and it's really a fascinating process. The thing I think, you know, I guess there's a stereotype of Native Americans with a lot of tribal drumming, but the fact is, I mean, that is a big part of the sound, and you know, I've always felt like when you study the history of music, you realize that music sort of started as a sacred expression of trying to understand the divine. And it was always a very primal and major part of us trying to understand our place in the universe. And with indigenous peoples and Native American people, you know, they still honor those roots. And what's really fun is, you know, that the group that I work with was called the Blessed Blend. And the reason they were called that is because they combined a lot of Native American musical traditions with a lot of Celtic musical traditions. So you had Native American percussion, you had Native American flute, you had some Native American language and tribal chanting and things of that nature, along with things like the Celtic harp. And so it was a beautiful thing. I know this may be a little bit down the rabbit hole for some people, but what was so much fun and so exciting was to figure out how best to capture the sound of the Native American instruments. Because, you know, with a lot of modern instrumentation, you know, you have actual microphones or pickups, you know, built into the instrument. So none of the Native American instruments were digital. None of them had built-in microphones. So what was so much fun was trying to capture the essence of the tone of the drum and the flute and all these different things. And really it was about the instrument, the player, and the room. And it was so much fun. The drums in particular are fascinating because these particular drums were handmade by a Native American craftsman, and he literally would meditate and pray over the drum, and then he would go out into the woods, and if an animal presented itself to him, he would make a drum from that animal skin. But if an animal did not present itself to him after he prayed and meditated, he would not. And these drums were really sacred, and you had to be very, very careful because you're not supposed to let anybody else handle your drum. These drums are a unique part of you as a player. And so it was just terribly fascinating because, you're not allowed to like I said, if it's not your drum, you're not supposed to touch it. And with these drums that were made out of deer skin, they're difficult to tune. And every, I don't know, you know this because you've been in studios your whole life. Of course I spend every waking day in the studio, but studios are typically kept around 68 degrees. So a lot of people, are cold in studios and have to bring jackets and stuff like that. And the reason I mention that, the reason for that is because all the equipment, starts to warm up, and the microphones, the pianos like it about 68 degrees. They hold their tuning better. If it's a dry, 68 degrees, roughly. So between 68 and 70 degrees is kind of where you keep things. Well, the problem with that is that it would change these drums tuning. So by being kind of cold. So if you wanted a specific note, it's not like a modern drum where you could just turn a peg and tune the skin. So we had to do things like get hair dryers out and blow hot air on the drum to kind of get it where we wanted it. It was really, really cool. But it's really amazing. Joseph Rifferwin is an honorary chief and has the name and has been given that honor to be a chief. And he's just an incredible fellow. And his wife, Laurelyn, is the Celtic half. And they are just incredible musicians, very steeped in culture and history and tradition. And it was a blast. And we put them, of course, on the playlist that we do for these shows. But it was so much fun, working with these Native American instruments because, like I said, there were no modern tuning devices.
Mm-hmm.
If your flute was a little out of tune, you had to work with it. You had to fool with it. If the drum was a little out of tune or wasn't exactly where you wanted it tuned, you blew hot air on it or you blow cold air on it or whatever.
Well, if you need hot air, just call me.
Oh, hey, listen, I've got you on speed dial for hot air.
Yeah, I know. I had to go there, but I listened to their music and it's beautiful. And everyone, we do have a Spotify playlist. This is a playlist I actually created last year, Indigenous Voices is what it's called. And, I've got that linked in the episode notes, also Joey's website, joeystuckey.com. And we're adding what Joey's adding. And then, when what you're talking about too, Blessed Blend. And of course we love that name being
wonderful
here.
Yeah.
That's a perfect, synergy there. So over the years, this was even before we started the podcast, we were writing about and reviewing music from a young man, Everin Ozan. And now he's an adult. He was 9 years old when we first met him and his mom. And he, lost his father, and then his mom and him went on a road trip to Maine. And, they stopped at the Grand Canyon and had his pocket money. And she says, "Oh, look, we could go in the store there." And he just went and picked out a flute, a Native American flute. And they say you start with the woodpecker flute. That's the voice, right? It's like these different levels of flute. And so he bought the woodpecker and he could just instantly play, right? And like, he's just one of those, and there's a channeling that happens. Anyway, so we did some reviews, and it's like weird to review a kid's music and you're going, wow. And he did it with some other, recording artists up in Maine and in California. And then he worked with a gentleman, a Native American flute player, Guillermo Martinez out of Dartmoor, California. And so we, went to see him perform. And then we actually helped to set up a gig for him. And Joshua actually, we've seen him a few times. And he channels, and I'm not kidding. He was able to take his hand off a flute to wave away a fly, and he was still playing.
Oh, yeah.
And he makes electricity go out. He did it. He came up when we lived in Julian up in the mountains in San Diego. He did a gig. The as soon as he started playing, electricity went out. We did this show out in Joshua Tree, right at the
Yeah.
entrance of the park in Joshua Tree area in California, right at the
Yeah.
entrance of Joshua Tree National Park. And it was a fundraiser for Sky's the Limit, which is an observatory that is now flourishing and going and doing things. That's at the other entrance. He knocked out the electricity there too. And so, yeah, he's also been nominated and won a NAMI, which is a Native American Music Award. So it's like the Native American version. It's from the Native American Music Association, but they have their own Grammys, but for Native
Right.
American music. So, right now they've got their, things in, but, and I want to get to that because I know you're involved with the Grammys, but I want to go back to Everin and Guillermo. Guillermo Martinez came on our show. Oh my gosh, this is when we first started podcasting and Everin. I mean, this is way back when. I don't even think we have the archives, but he put out an album called Bamboo, Cedar, Oak. And this is what resonates with, talking about Blessed Blend.
Yeah.
It was him and Nigel Shaw and Hiroki Okano. And this was an international trio. So we've got Guillermo from Dartmoor, California. And then we've got Japan and also Nigel from the English side. So it brought, Buddhist and Native Mexican music too, because Guillermo is also Mexican. So Native American and Mexican. So this was this complete, I mean, it's amazing actually when you think about these cultures coming together. And so it's called Bamboo, Cedar, Oak, the album. So if you Google that, Bamboo, Cedar, Oak album, you'll find it. And so it is music. It's all not Native American per se, but each person coming in with the flute of their ancestry and then the drumming to go with it. And it's synergized into one beautiful sound. And as a triangle,
that's so
it's kind of
cool.
interesting.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Because a triangle is almost like a circle, like when you think of it. Not to be weird, but it's true because it's kind of circular in a way of how it's like a perfect shape,
I do like a good triangle.
Do you? Well, I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, are you trying to like listen? You know me and tambourine players and triangle players who shouldn't have them, right?
I was always I'm very skilled with lead electric triangle. That's one of my that's one of my instruments. But I do tell you I love that synergy that you're talking about, and it's so amazing to hear these amazing. That's, as we've talked about many times. Music is this language that has no boundaries, and you can encompass all kinds of things in one musical expression. And that's really exciting. We got a chance to see a lot of Native American music after I produced a couple albums for the Blessed Blend. I think I've done 3. And after I produced those back in 2007, they called me and said, "Hey, we've been asked to play the Gathering of Nations, which is a really big Native American festival in Albuquerque, New Mexico." And I think there's like 1 million people over 2 days or something. It's some ridiculous number like that. And they said, "We've been asked to play, and we're going to open for Robert Mirabal. And so we're going to share the stage, with this incredible artist who's taken Native American stuff and done some rock stuff with it and done all kind of neat things." We went and they said, "We want you to come play guitar," because I played guitar on the record and produced the record. And they said, "I'm also a percussionist. I'm adequate. I'm an adequate percussionist." They said, "When you're not playing guitar, we're going to have you play some native drums and some Celtic drums and different things like that." And so it was a ton of fun as a utility player. I got to sit on stage and I played my guitar, and then when I was not playing guitar, I still had the guitar around my neck and was playing drums and doing all these really wonderful things. But the thing that was so neat is we got to hear so much other Native American music and in so many different flavors and so many different interesting combinations. But the highlight of that trip, I was talking to you about the drums and how special they were. I got to go get my own native drum. And my grandfather on my mom's side was 75% Cherokee, and I never knew my great grandparents on my grandfather's side, but they were full Cherokee, and it was just so neat to be able to connect with that history and get my own drum, and it's again, nobody else can touch it, right? It's my drum.
Yeah.
It's a sacred thing, and
Get
I
off my
picked
drum.
hey kids, get off my drum. But
Yeah.
but it was neat because I got to listen to. They had about 20 different drums there. They were not inexpensive. These were. I mean, you paid a decent price for them, but they're handmade. They're prayed over.
Mm.
And I listened to about 20 drums, and I got it down to 3 that I liked the sound of, and then I finally picked my drum, and
Mm.
I got to use it. It was so much fun, and I got to use it, and it made me really feel connected to those traditions, to be able to really participate in that way.
Well, I think what's so interesting about Native American music is number one, they do way more than what you would think is the traditional tribal music, right? You've got to think, there's so many
Way,
bands
yeah,
and musicians, and we'll get into that, but going into like choosing your drum and things, I think what's so important about the culture too is they are so attuned with instinct and core of self,
yeah,
which is connected to the natural world and ancestry. And it's like there's the awareness of their surroundings and their connection to those surroundings.
yeah,
And when you're like picking out a drum, it's like, I've gone out to harvest sage with a dear friend, and you don't just pick sage. You let the sage tell you if it's allowed, if you ask permission. And I know that sounds woo woo, but until you do it, you start to realize, oh, and you meditate and you talk, there's a spiritual practice. And then when you go out to harvest the sage, you actually pick when the sage says, yeah, I'm ready. You can take me. The
yeah,
others are like, I'm not ready yet. I'm still young.
yeah,
So there's like this, awareness, which is really respect. And
exactly.
so musically with the drums, what I find very interesting is it's very much heartbeat, right? It's very
Mhm.
heartbeat. And then it could also be, when you talked about Celtic music, right? And that's the other side of it. There's like Scottish music and dance, Scottish dance, like Highland dancing, all of that was created during war. That was actually training. The dancing was training. They would do it on, they have those huge poles, caber tossing that they do, the Scots, right? They run with these huge poles. Those poles they would put over like a creek, and they would dance on those poles. And that's part of the dance routines that they have. And it was about agility and speed. And the music was actually really about keeping you even footed. And they would go really fast. And then it would get up to a certain point of like, it elevates from heartbeat, which is always going to be there, to like warrior music, like I'm going to kick your butt,
Yeah,
I'm going to take you down. But that's still heartbeat, like you're racing. It's an adrenaline, like adrenaline music. It's the same thing as rock and roll. Like, you can have a rock ballad and then you're going to have like heavy metal, or, it's still going with how humans breathe. And if it goes against the heartbeat, it's not going to work. And I think no matter what kind of music Native American peoples play, the indigenous peoples, they really understand that heartbeat. They
yeah,
really get
yeah,
it
yeah.
because of those extra sensitivities. Does that make sense? Like
It
I
does,
really
yeah. No, I mean,
respect it so
there,
much.
there's a lot of, there's a lot of, I think the key word that you latched onto is respect. There's a lot of respect for the music, for the instruments, for the tradition. And I think that's a really key thing that maybe sometimes we don't experience the way we should, is that respect, and to have that sense of honor and respect, and also to feel privileged to make music.
Mm,
That's something else that I think was really important about those recording sessions, was that every day, we felt privileged to make music. And there are times when you get caught up in the rat race, and you get caught up in the stress of making a living, and you get caught up in all that stuff,
mm.
that sometimes you can forget about that privilege. And you shouldn't. And
Well,
that's why
yeah.
when that's why when you make a record that's all about that, it's so much fun. That's one of the reasons I like doing gospel records, is because um, there's so much joy in the music, and even though we're working hard, there's so much joy in it. So I've done a ton of gospel records, and you know, there's that same sense of privilege to be making music that happens a lot. So it's a lot of fun, but it is true that there are so many different flavors of Native American music or indigenous music that I really encourage everybody to explore it, because you're going to hear a lot of things you never thought you'd hear. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we don't want to get sucked into sort of the stereotypes that are out there. I mean, there's so much more.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's so true. I mean, it's to me it's so connected to nature to me. Like the Native American flute just calms me. It's, and you were talking about getting stuck with the day to day, and Nancy and I've been in like, production moving, and,
Yeah,
we've had our head in the grindstone. And the other day, there's a level of frustration that can come out,
of
just
course.
kindly putting it that way.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I just had to absolutely walk away, go outside, be in nature. Listen to woodpeckers do it to me, because that always reminds me in mockingbirds. There's
I
something,
love woodpeckers, man. I just think they're so cool.
yeah,
And
that's the first Native American voice.
they have
That's
the
the first
most
voice.
woodpeckers have the coolest tone. And as a musician who is absolutely obsessed with music, I'm always tapping my fingers on something or playing some rhythmic pattern on my body or on the table or whatever. And honestly, about 85% of the time, I'm not even aware I'm doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
and I love to hear a woodpecker.
And look,
Their
they've got them
tone
here
is
in
so
flickers.
good.
Yeah, and they do scales. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And so you go out there, but I came back in and I played some of the music getting prepared for the show. And I swear to God, all my frustrations, like within seconds, like out the door. It,
Yeah,
because it gets you again to that core, truth. What's important. Their music really always gets to that importance. But then, there's music that, will challenge that. Like you're saying, we don't get into
sure.
stereotype mode. So I sent you a link to, music from Delbert Anderson.
Yeah,
And he's got a trio. He is the current, artist in residence in Hawaii Volcanoes National Park with the National Parks Arts Foundation.
yeah,
And I had the honor of interviewing him, and everyone that will be out on the first Friday of December. And he's traveled the world, including South Africa. And he does something very similar to you. And people call him like a jazz musician because he plays trumpet. And everyone's like, what's an Indian doing playing the trumpet? He's like, because I like it. I'm good at it. I tried playing the trombone and I sucked at it. So I went to trumpet, and the humor is so cool. And so he is an amazing human being, incredibly talented. And, people say jazz. He goes jazz, but he goes, really, it's not. Like, if you really listen, it's not, it's like, but if you want
yeah,
to call it that, go for it.
yeah.
It's
I
like,
mean, I hate having to classify music, but I mean, it has to be done so you can market. You know, you can have some sort of marketing. But I hate classifying music. But what he did, there was with the drumming, I got a sense of a little tribal
yeah,
influence
right.
there. With the bass guitar, it was much funky. It was real funky and
Funk. Yeah.
heavily
That was a
affected.
stand-up bass.
Yeah,
So
and it had a lot of effects on it.
and what I sent you is there's a video, and they were recording it outside an old trading post that is run down, and a lot of our trading posts across the Southwest are like gone now.
Sure.
So it's kind of like old homesteads, and I feel I just want to save them all,
Yeah.
but they performed out there. It was so beautiful. I wish you could see it, Joey.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
but
I
yeah,
heard
it
him
was a
walking through
stand.
the leaves
Yeah, yeah.
on the
See,
video. You can hear him walking around.
I thought you'd pick up on that too, as those little sentiments like you always do. But the bass, stand up bass. So what he did, that funk sound is so, you've got you're a guitarist, right? So you've got your strings all tuned in.
Right.
Well, one of the strings was still in tune, right? But he loosened it so much, but it was still taut enough, but loosened to create that funk. And it's like and I've not seen anyone do that with a stand-up bass where he's able to, so you know how we have the didgeridoo, which is circular breathing, right?
Right,
In
right.
the Aborigine music, but it's kind of like circular. I don't know how to explain how he did that by basically having a big fat loose string and still playing bass on the stand-up bass and then circularly making that a funk sound with that. It's
Yeah,
a
it
trip.
was amazing. And then of course you had the trumpet, but I understand what he's saying when he says it's not jazz. I mean, it certainly has flavors of
Qualities.
jazz,
Yeah.
overtones of jazz, if you want to call it that. But I could tell that he was just playing what was in his heart, like what was in his mind, and he was just playing freely, like in nature, as you say, like the birds, they perform freely, and they
And not
just
cluttered.
yeah,
Not
and
cluttered.
it was really it was a lot of fun to hear. It's a great recording. I highly recommend everybody check it out.
Yeah, he went to South Africa and he has a program called Building a Band. And so he teaches music students. So he teaches like you do. I
Yeah.
got to put the two, I think I talked to him about you too. I'm like, I got to put you guys on the show together because
Oh, that'd be
he
awesome.
teaches music students how to build a band. And it's like a crash course on having a band, the legal stuff, all of it, how you get paid. How do you propose being in a gig beyond getting the free beer and food,
Right, right.
all of that. And so he helps students do that. And then they go to college and he's watched
Nice.
these musicians come out and graduate, but they have that edge of, it's like getting the streetwise stuff, you
Right.
know, and, they've all gone on to do recordings. And one lady, graduated and he was going to South Africa. She's like, well, I want to do this. So he went to South Africa with her and a South African artist collaborated digitally. And then they met and they created a song and they both were writing the song and they don't even speak each other's languages. They don't even, they don't, I mean, they're completely two different languages
Wow.
and their song that they were writing, like she did like the music and the other one did the vocals, right? The words and everything.
Right.
And they were both writing it about women's rights and they didn't
Wow.
know it. They didn't know it. They ended up at a concert and the whole audience went berserk because it was women's rights in Africa, which is still a big fight.
Sure.
And so, and here she's coming from the States, which it's still a fight. Sorry,
Yeah.
truth.
It is true. It is true.
And it is true. This is not a political statement. It's a, go look it up, y'all.
That's right.
So just go look it up. I'm not here to play fact checking and all those games. Just go look it up. So in South Africa, when we got there, women's rights were, we couldn't go to certain restaurants as women, because it was men only. So there was an apartheid on women when we were there too, when we first got there. So this was such an emotional, when we talk about music being the universal language, this is the epitome of it. We were in Gallup, New Mexico, on the tour, as we travel, we were going to Chaco and, Aztec ruins, and Gallup is a very special place. The Blackfoot Navajo, are all surrounding there, the Navajo Nation, but also this is where a lot of the Navajo code talkers come from during World War II.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
have a veterans memorial, like a wall of fame, and they have a beautiful downtown, a lot of adobe, like Santa Fe kind of style. And anyway, they have in the summer between May, like Memorial Day and Labor Day kind of thing. I may be off a few weeks. So Google that too, Gallup ceremonial dances. And, you've got to be very careful. Like even when Santa Fe, you don't just start taking photos of Native American. There are human beings,
Right.
they're not animals in a zoo.
Right.
So be very respectful of that. And just like anybody I hate people like with their phones half the time you end up in, yeah, here's my butt, anyway, no, these dances they do, every weekend there's like a day where they go out in the courthouse plaza and this was a husband and wife. She was Ute and I think he was Navajo. I'm going to get it wrong, but anyway, they did these dances, very traditional dances. and people from around the world and they said you are allowed to feel free to take photos. We want you to understand, film, do whatever you want to do at this space. So of course I did. I think they ended up on one of our covers. It's beautiful, full regalia, but the whole program was understanding, the dances, what they were for. These were ancient dances. And when you talked about, this respect and privilege of music, of making music, you've got to think what Native Americans went through, getting their hair cut off and thrown into schools that wasn't their lifestyle,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
this happened in Africa too. Sorry to missionary friends out there, but, just because you do things one way doesn't mean it's right for the other person.
That's
And
right.
what happened to their music? They kept it inside.
Yeah.
They kept they held it. That's why the oral traditions, right, was part of the protection. But now, tribes are working on documenting their language and creating dictionaries, and so they don't lose it. I spoke with a lady in Louisiana at the folk festival in Natchitoches. Her tribe is only 600 people strong, only
Wow.
600 people left. And her father got their language into the Library of Congress.
Nice.
So it was documented, and she's very proud of it. She's a basket weaver, and explaining the stories in each basket. And I mean, she set up her baskets; they were gone within an hour.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because they're so, there's only 600 people left, and this is like, living history right now.
Yeah.
But we talked about that music, and it's so important that the music prevails, because at one time it wasn't. We split people up. We did some
Yeah.
very bad things in this country.
Oh, yeah.
And
Trail of
so,
Tears. Absolutely.
yeah, so when you talked about that respect, I think it's important. Can I talk a little bit with you about the music that people won't even expect is Native American? We can start with Robbie Robertson from the band.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize, I mean, his music. Did you ever listen to his Native American music?
I haven't.
Oh, Joey. I gotta turn you on to some good stuff.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh, the ghost dance. Oh my gosh. So
I,
He's Lakota, and he did a lot of music about what happened at Wounded Knee. And
Interesting.
oh no, I can't wait to turn you on to this. This
I'm
is so
excited to hear it.
exciting. I
Yeah.
get so excited about sharing music with people. I
Oh,
really
me
do. I'm
too.
like, and you got
Me
to hear
too.
this, and you got to hear that. Oh no, this is amazing. Rita Coolidge.
Yeah.
Have you listened to her Native American music with her
You know,
sisters?
I've heard about that, but I haven't heard it.
Uh-oh, Joey.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay. I see this. Yeah. Okay. So this playlist is cool, y'all. It's going to have a little bit of everybody for you on there. We have Robert Mirabal on there
Yeah. No,
because,
that's something that I'd heard his music way before we had a chance to share the stage with him, but very good stuff. And I sent you my favorite album, but there's lots of stuff out there.
Bill Miller,
Yeah.
he's amazing. Um, yeah. Have you heard his music?
No.
Now, I got to go back to Robert Mirabal. I think he was one of the first Native American musicians in this country that I got connected with, because we worked with a store that did a lot of Native American art,
That's actually how
pottery,
I found out.
collectibles.
Well, that's how I found out about it, because a friend of mine was really obsessed with Native American arts and crafts and things like that, and had a small. He mostly hung out in New Mexico, but he had a small store with some really cool like Native American art in it in Nashville, and he had
Hmm.
he was actually a graphic designer. That was what paid the bills. But he had this small little store And one day I came. He always did my cover art, and he's sadly passed away. But one day I came in, and he was playing this music. Oh man, who was that? That's really cool. And it was Robert Mirabal, and he turned me on to it. And that was the first. That was the first I'd ever heard of that kind of music, and it's just fantastic.
His shows,
Yeah,
are off the hook, energetic, and
yeah,
incredible, incredible, incredible. You know, and it just, you've got, if you haven't heard him, and if you get a chance to experience his shows, he's amazing. We did get chance to interview Bill Miller years ago, right at the beginning of our podcast. So I don't even, again, it's like one of those archives, like good luck on that one, that long ago. And I really wish, I think in our storage unit, we have some of those old files. He's a very, strong spokesperson as well for his, heritage, and he's incredible. We also, Joanne Shenandoah has been on our show. Oh my gosh, her voice is like silk. She's just got the most amazing music. And, there's some anger in some music for not
well, sure.
Joanne, but, and so there's that balance too, you know, and then some who are like, let's now just go to unity,
Yeah,
and I think that's just a journey in music and as an individual, and you're going to explore all those feelings, right?
yeah.
I've
Well,
seen that happen with, like, I know he's not Native American. Oh, he could be. Oh my gosh, I love his music. Oh my gosh. All the freaky people make the music beauty of the world. Oh my gosh. You know him. We've
I'm not
talked about
helping
him
you
on
out.
the show. I got to type in all the
I'm
freaky
not.
people.
I'm not helping you out.
I know, but he was, make the beauty of the world. Here it is. Oh gosh. I got to get it. Yeah. Michael Franti. Oh, he was adopted, right?
Yeah,
Um, so he, did a lot of hip hop and a little rap and a little funk, a little bit of everything, reggae. And he was angry about stuff and trying to shed light. And he was using anger as his fuel. And then one day he realized that's not the fuel. That's not the right fuel.
yeah.
Love is the fuel. And he changed his music still within those veins, but now like he does yoga retreats and everything with his fans, and he's still, doing hip hop and stuff like that. But he's gone into more of like, okay, if we're going to fix things, we have to be coming from the power place of love versus the anger,
I
so
mean, yeah. I
he's all
think.
about racial justice
Yeah,
and things like that. And that's
I
a
think it's
hard road to change if you've been racially abused or
sure.
put down,
Well,
you
I
know?
mean, it's appropriate to say that is not right. And it's appropriate to be angry. It's appropriate to be sad. It's appropriate. All those things are important to share. It's just that you can't stay there. That's the thing. But I think it's important to feel how you feel. But eventually you've got to come back around to love and to peace and to unity, because that's the only true way to move forward. But to deny those other feelings would be just as wrong,
Hmm.
in my mind, because I've got songs. My shows are basically pretty happy, and I'm pretty happy, and they're usually inspirational and that sort of thing. But I'll play a couple sad songs, and I'll say, "Everybody having a good time?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "Great, let's get depressed." So we'll play some sad songs, and then we'll bring.
Stormy Monday's coming out. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then we bring it back up. We bring it back up. But it's I think the connection to peace and to unity and to love is really important, and it's the only way to move forward. But if you deny the frustration or the anger, that's bad too. So it's good
Yeah.
to get it all out therapeutically.
You got to have the feeling of sad because
Yeah.
you've got to have that balance. You're allowed to
Well,
do
you
that,
have
and
to have
music
something to
does that.
juxtapose next to happy, right?
Hmm.
You got to give
Hmm.
happy some value, and the only way to give happy some value is to just to share its opposite.
Yeah, no. I was talking about Mila Coolidge and everyone, Walila is the band that, check that out. They have a song called Wash Your Spirit Clean. And then Robbie Robertson, Cherokee Morning Song. I mean, oh, there's just such beautiful music. I'm going to be listening to this for the rest of the night. This
Yeah.
playlist is over 40 songs. Buffy St.
Nice.
Marie. Think about Buffy St. Marie, you
I
know?
just love the name Buffy.
Yeah, I want to be a Buffy too.
Well, from
But
now on, I'll call you Buffy.
okay, you can
That
do
dream
that.
is now granted. Boom. What else can I do for you?
Okay. Now listen, what about Redbone? How many
Oh,
people
yeah.
realize that Redbone is a Native American band, family
Yeah.
band?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I,
sister even plays Martha Redbone.
I actually met, the Redbone has had a lot of different members over the year, is my
Yeah.
understanding. That's pretty large cast of characters. But I met a guy, and now I'm sorry to say that his name eludes me, but was a super cool dude. He was a Native American gentleman in California, and I was performing at the Los Angeles Braille Institute, and he was a gentleman there who came and participated. He could still see, but was had less vision than he used to. And I can't think of his name right now, but he was a member of that band, and he brought out some congas and some other drums, and jammed with me when I performed. Just no rehearsal, no nothing. Just he's like, "Hey, I got my drums. Can I? I used to, we used to play in Redbone and everything." And he said, "Can I come jam with you while you play?" I was like, "Absolutely, let's do it."
Wow.
So that was really cool.
So Redbone had an album called Wovoka. And so this ties out into some of Robbie Robertson's music because of the Ghost Dance. And the Ghost Dance is from Wovoka, which is a guy who is known as a Paiute because he's from Nevada, south of, well, actually just east of Carson City and just south of Reno, Nevada. There's an area called Yerington, and Nancy and I have covered this and gone there a number of times. In fact, we were there just driving through during a blizzard this year. So it's, up in the Sierra Nevadas, and this Yerington area is also Smith Valley. And so the Northern Paiutes go up into that area. And Wovoka was a Paiute religious leader, and he founded like the second wave of what is the Ghost Dance movement, of cleaning out the bad. And when we got to Yerington for the first time, we went in, and I knew about the music. I knew about the Wovoka because of Redbone and because of Robbie Robertson talking about the Ghost Dance. And we went in the museum, and here's this big poster of Wovoka. And this man, we've done stories on him in the magazines over the years of the Ghost Dancer. And it's like a round dance, just like a lot of Native American, the music is a round because round is good. Like in Africa, everything, the huts are round because it doesn't leave corners for spirits to get trapped. It's more safe, right? So, but anyway, and so Wovoka was more on the Christian side, believe it or not. So, the Ghost Dance movement was really created, and practiced and used mostly. What people recognize it from is from the Wounded Knee massacre. So that ties back into the Robbie Robertson side. But Wovoka kind of had this vision, he apparently had he had a coma, and this is all tied into a solar eclipse back in 1889. And he resurrected, the Paiute version of this dance, the Ghost Dance. So, I mean, this was weird for me going into this little museum in the middle of the desert, and there's the Ghost Dancer.
Yeah.
And, and then they had right next to him as one of the famous peoples for being able to run the furthest with a sack of potatoes. I'm not kidding. This is, and then this area was, but it is, the Paiute land. And if you go down Highway 395, which it goes through the Sierras, the east side of the Sierras, you are in Paiute country. And we've covered another musician who is Paiute, And his branch of the Paiute basically said, we ain't doing no reservations. We're free 100%. We don't want part of it at all. So, which is a little different than those who went into the reservations and then, some open casinos and that's how they fund, their tribe. And a lot of those casinos, number one, have become, they saved the music scene at one point in this country. I'm just going to remind people of the casinos and music entertainment.
Sure.
When musicians weren't getting gigs in the other places, casinos hired them. And still to this day. So I just want to say that. But they, feed the tribe that way. And they all have museums and people skip over that part. They want you to understand their history and their culture and who they are. So
Yeah.
when you go to a casino, look out for that museum, or even it might just be a small display, but check that out. But I had no idea, this. And anyway, the Paiutes do have casinos, but they're different and it's not connected to a reservation.
Huh. Interesting.
No drinking allowed.
Yeah, I remember that part. Yeah.
Yeah, that's, not
I've,
necessarily a
I've
good
heard
thing.
that before. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's there's so many stories and the music tells it all because that I think is part of their storytelling through the
Yeah.
years. So, this is interesting. So, some other musicians that we may not know, that not were or are Native American, Johnny Depp. I think he's an incredible guitarist. Have you heard him play?
I have not, but I knew he was a musician.
Okay, I'm going to send you stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, Eagle Eye Cherry
Oh,
is
yeah.
Choctaw. The Jacksons, Choctaw Blackfeet. Miles Davis. Of course, there's Martha Redbone. We were talking about, and by the way, everyone, if you go to NativeAmericanMusicAwards.com, you'll see what I'm talking about. So you can, Richie Haven, one of my favorite rhythm guitarists. The Neville Brothers. Did you know that?
I'm not surprised, but I didn't know it.
Ronnie Spector.
Huh.
Yeah. I mean, this is just, it's Jimi Hendrix is Cherokee, part
I knew
Cherokee.
that. Yeah.
Aaron Neville, because we're talking about the Neville brothers.
Yeah.
Ben Harper is Cherokee. Beyonce,
Huh.
a little Creole there. Charlie Patton. Charlie Parker. Oh, Charlie Parker. And LL Cool J. And James Brown. Isn't that cool?
That is amazing. Yeah. I
Oh,
need to,
and Johnny Mathis.
yeah, I need to do one of those 23andMe DNA things to see how much Cherokees I have. But I know that I must have some because my grandfather was 75%. So I don't know where he got that number from.
Loretta, yeah, see, but there's going to be a connection because in history, people did, and we're all connected as far as
Sure.
I'm concerned.
I agree.
Loretta Lynn, by the way.
I love her.
And Tony Tennille. Remember Captain and Tennille?
Of course.
And then, Pete Wentz. Yeah, they have a whole thing where, and they show like, Willie Nelson, part Cherokee too.
Huh.
Billy Ray Cyrus. Yeah, this is pretty interesting to look at of who, what and where. And Mandy Moore.
Oh, she's
Mark
a fantastic
Slaughter,
singer.
Scott Stapp. Wow, I didn't know that about him. Yeah, I mean, and they also have a really good category section educating people on professional athletes like Jim Thorpe. We've been to his park in his town in Pennsylvania. Yeah, so I did not know Michael Jackson was, part Native American. Anthony Kiedis from the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's cool to just get to understand Post Malone. Oh, they say it's unconfirmed.
Oh.
Okay. Kenny Rogers had no clue, right? And so there's a lot of people in Ma Bailey. Wow. So they also have a very good area for understanding the actors and actresses as well, which I think is cool to understand. So hopefully people will watch what's going on the NAMMYs coming up. They have got their nominees listed up on the site for the next, show and the next one that's coming up. And they have a playlist on Apple and Spotify so you can listen to the nominees. So you can check that all out at NativeAmericanMusicAwards.com. So Joey, it sounds like you and I need to have a night where we just listen to music.
I
And
love it.
I have a lot to send to you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think when we come to Georgia next time, we're going to sit in your studio and play music all day. Is that
Works
cool?
for me. Yeah.
Cool.
When I was a kid, we used to do that. My friends, we'd get together and we'd all bring over the latest record we bought, and we'd all sit there and just listen to the record when I was 12, 13 years old. And I had 4 or 5 friends, and we'd all just bring over our latest records and listen to them. So, yeah, we could have that kind of old school party again.
I love that, man. That's how it's supposed to be.
Music and snacks. That's what you want. You want both.
You need snacks.
You got to have snacks.
Have to have the snacks. But I miss it. I had a friend, in South Africa, out in Joburg area, and he had a train running around his bedroom, which was pretty much standing because of the amount of albums he had. I mean, and then which way the train would go and what the train would do was going according to how good the album was in our mind. We're like,
how interesting.
It was like the train game, but it was cool. It was like, oh man, this is rocking. All right. Get that train going fast. It's going to do so many choo-choos kind of thing. It's not quite that, but I mean, this was a long time ago, so may have a faulty memory here, but we had a good time with that train. That train was that was the measuring stick of the album.
That is
for
amazing.
How we felt at that point,
That's
so
great.
It's snacks and trains. But
Snacks
yeah,
and Trains. That's an album title.
It is Snacks and Trains.
It's mine. I just claimed it. Snacks and Trains.
You can do it. You can take whatever you want. You're Joey. Hey, Joey, but I think, wouldn't you say for folks to step out and listen, go and explore these musicians? We've got the playlist. I think what's great about, going to the Native American Music Awards playlist. I mean, I have everybody on there. I don't think I know anybody on there. And that's exciting for me personally because
absolutely.
I want to go listen to all these people I didn't know.
Discover something new.
Yeah, and it's just not always what you think.
Yeah.
And so in your community, if there's a powwow, a lot of powwows have open days, for, everybody of other cultures to come in, and they do want you to learn and understand. There's an understanding, there is a respect, and the more we have of that, the more important. It's important, but the better we'll all get along, and protect our country.
Yeah, nothing helps you to connect than appreciating where somebody came from. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And my favorite part about being a touring musician, being a traveling educator, is sharing stories. I share my story, and then I get to hear other people's stories. And so trading stories through music or through common history or whatever it is a really important part of being human.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Joey, it is always fun to have you on the show. Next month, we're going to celebrate winter. We're doing the holiday season, everything all month long, right? But when Joey comes on, it's going to be officially winter. So we're going to celebrate winter magic. Snow,
absolutely.
Love.
Yeah.
The dark and the light, right?
Yeah.
Because when you think of all these holidays, the winter holidays through all religions and belief systems, it's all about putting the light in the dark.
Yeah.
I think is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna talk about winter magic. So looking forward to that. Listen, happy Thanksgiving to you and Jen and your family.
Same to you, my friend.
Happy holidays. We'll talk to you before Christmas next month. Take care. And take care, everybody. Dear. We wish everyone a wonderful music adventure listening to Native American music. Thank you for listening to Big Blend Radio. Keep up with our shows at bigblendradio.com.